What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Making the Difference. I'm the host here, Ryan. I have a special guest with me, but before we get into that, I just want to talk about the show and how much support I've been getting. I really do appreciate the support. Also, if you do want to show some more support, share the show. I have put it out on Apple Podcasts, where you could be listening to it, on Spotify. Video version is on YouTube. Make sure you're helping me out with the algorithm. Hit the like button. Leave me a comment if you have any questions. If you enjoyed the show, if you want to tell me anything, you can always DM me with any questions as well. Instagram, it's at The Difference. I'm posting daily content on TikTok as well. Just a lot of stuff going on, but I really do appreciate the support that I have all the way around. And continue to share the show. So today, I have a special guest here. I'm bringing him on as my first special guest. He is his name's Cody Lambson. He's a recon Marine father, also my brother. He is I'll let you give you a little introduction.
Thank you. Yeah, recon Marine got out in 2012, but I had a lot of fun there. That was some of the toughest stuff that I've had to do in my life, but also some of the most enjoyable things, like getting to go to dive school, got my dive certification out of it, went to free fall school, got skydiving license out of it, got to train special forces Marines as well as British commandos, worked with the French.
Wow.
Got to go to a bunch of different countries.
Damn, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Training marksmanship with all these people. I had a great time doing that. But father of 4 now, took on 3 of them.
Yeah, a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. Full-time student at ASU, full-time employee, part-time realtor, and it's
a lot.
A lot.
It's a lot to take on. I mean, I can't imagine.
Always moving.
Right. Well, and I'm gonna jump right into it, to be honest. Like you saying, some of the toughest times, but some of the best times, right? Do you think that the tough times make great times? Is that like fair to say?
Yeah, right. Because whatever the tougher things in life are the things that you value most.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's really, really interesting. I think that some of the things that we land on, that we don't appreciate. We appreciate the things, the tough times, but not until they're actually complete. If that makes sense. We're tough times are what builds us up, and it's easy to quit at the time of it being tough. But if you succeed through your tough times, you're able to reflect on the tough times as better times.
Yeah, but how would you define a tough time?
Tough time.
Because that's relative, right? Because right now, my 6-year-old, her tough time is having to brush her teeth at night, and she really doesn't want to. Because that's like the toughest thing she's experienced. Or like she recently hit her leg on something, on like a thing, and got a little scratch. That's the worst injury she's gotten in her entire life. So for her, a tough time, right? We kind of talked about this like with the yogi before, right? Or a tough time is relative to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, how would you define a tough time? I think you would say a tough time is some time when your voice in your head wants you to give up. I think that would be one of the big, as far as like, I mean, tough times are definitely relative, but when
you want to quit,
that's a tough time.
Yeah.
I mean, when you can't, I mean, Andy Frisella talks about it a lot. He says, your bitch voice and your boss voice. I mean, the bitch voice was taking over, wanting you to quit. You're supposed to, flip your switch into the boss voice. And we all have those voices in our head, right? I mean, it's interesting because you hear like, schizophrenia people, they talk about voices, and that's like way more obviously. But I mean, we all have voices that are, from our past, like this experience or that experience, whether it's good or bad. We have those voices that are telling us, hey, you can do this or you can't do this. And I think the the bitch voice is what creates those hard times, those mental times that you need to push through.
Yeah. So one of the schools I went through, it was just like in the very beginning, right? So you go to boot camp, and then after that, it's infantry training battalion, and then after that was MART, which is the precursor to the actual course to become a reconnaissance marine. So BRC, basic reconnaissance course, is the course that you have to pass in order to become a recon marine and have that title. But MART gets you ready for BRC. So all you do for 4 hours a day is land. We call it land PT, and then pool PT. So 3 hours of pool PT and 3 hours of land PT a day.
Yeah.
The rest is breaks and lunch and travel time and that sort of stuff. But
right.
Sometimes it would be a little bit longer. But I got to the point when we were going to the pool that, because we went 5 days a week to the pool for 3 hours, and I wasn't a good swimmer when I went in, and I had to convince myself on the bus to the pool that I was going to drown today. And if I didn't convince myself of that, then I would like almost have a panic attack on the bus, because I'm driving there. It's a 10-15 minute drive, and I'm just like freaking out. I'm like, okay, just accept the worst possible outcome. You could drown. You're not going to die. Like, there's lifeguards there. They're going to revive you. You might just take some water in the lungs. You know what I mean?
Just a little.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, so that's, as soon as I could accept that I might just drown today and just accept drowning, then my nerves calmed down and I was able to progress through that situation. So for me, that was a tough time because I wanted to quit.
Right, for sure.
Every day I wanted to quit.
Damn, yeah.
But that was what that school was for. It was just to weed out people who mental fortitude just wasn't there. It's literally mental fortitude
to weed the people out that wanted to quit.
Yeah, I had to be there for 3 months.
Yeah,
3 or 4 months, but I was in the best shape of my life.
Right,
I was jacked.
Right. Yeah. No, I can imagine that's an easy point of exit. Right. I mean, would you want somebody that's not, mentally capable, mentally strong by your side in the worst of times? Right. I mean, I wouldn't. I think that one of the biggest things with developing personal development is so that you can help the people around you, right? If you aren't in the right mental state now, or if you can't develop the mental state for yourself, then there's no way that you can develop that for anybody else. Or you can't, how do I put that? It's like creating abundance, right? You can't give away anything that you don't have. So if we all rely on other people, whether you're relying on them for, training or for, money at a hurtful time or anything like that. If you don't have the abundance to yourself, you can't give that away. So I think, it weeds the people out that are not mentally strong, that you don't want. I mean, want by your side. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Like, you knew every guy that was next to you. Now there's women as well.
Absolutely,
But when you knew that the person next to you had done and completed all the same things that you did, so they might bitch about stuff from time to time, or they might, complain. But at the end of the day, you knew they were going to finish whatever it was. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
It was like working with professionals.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't want to work with somebody that hadn't, or it's not a professional, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting question. You think the military helps unite people?
Yes.
Yeah. And in what way though? Through camaraderie, through obviously, I mean, I say it's obvious, but
I would say through a couple different paths. I would say one, through building a common enemy. So they do that from the beginning with your drill instructors. So that's where you learn.
Against your drill instructor? Like against, kind of, in a way?
In a way, right? You're not against them, because at the end of it all, like when you're graduating boot camp, like I guess there's like this, you can give a handshake and like, good job, you're a man now, you passed the test. But it's really like kind of awkward, because this was a dude that was just torturing you for 3 months.
Yeah, spitting in your face or whatever.
Yeah, just like being a total dick all the time, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're me now, so let's eat ice cream together.
Let's have a beer.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah. This is all an act. Dude, it brainwashes me.
Right.
Yeah, my brain was all crazy.
Sure, I imagine, yeah. So through a common enemy, right?
Yeah, so that's a common enemy. And then the other way is through common suffering. So everybody was going through the same pains.
Sure.
And the same suffering. And so when you get through something tough with somebody, you usually come out on the other end with a closer bond. Not always, right? Like if you fought the whole time, but like if you like were helpful to one another,
absolutely.
and you teamworked it to a common goal, getting through suffering together.
I think, so I was listening to a podcast the other day, and that was the main point that this guy was trying to make of not religion per se, but he was saying that that's how you build your friendships or your loyalty. Having a professor or drill sergeant or anything like that as a common enemy, that's how you build fortitude amongst friends, versus having a common interest, even though that they're the same things in a sense, a common interest, common enemy. More so through the tough times you build more camaraderie, or you're more united. The counter argument that I was interested in is does religion play a part in uniting people, or are you fighting? Is it basically does it basically come down to the same thing of finding a common enemy?
Are we switching gears to religion, or are we relating it to the military?
Well, not religion in specific, but I'm saying, how does do you find it more so that you're able to unite under these things, right? Like unite under a common enemy, right? Rather than under common interest. Are they two the same things, or are they separate?
That's a good question. I feel like the bond of a common, the bond you receive from a common hardship is stronger than of a common interest.
Right.
Typically.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like common interest of we like to fly model airplanes. Absolutely. Or disc golf. Exactly. Play basketball. Yeah, I mean, you make great. I mean, that's positive energy, right?
Right.
Like that's building it in positive energy. Yeah, I feel like they feel differently.
Absolutely. You could go through the hardship, and at the end of the time, you're bonded in a certain way that bond lasts for longer. I feel as though.
Yeah, I think it also might have to do with when you're going through a hard thing, you typically show more of who you are, right? Like that's at least what I'm gonna get it. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I believe. But yeah, you know what a man his worth is, or who he really is, when he's not in a time of comfort but a time of distress, or whatever it was. So when you're at the other side of that, if you teamworked it and you're cooperating and collaborating with that other person or people to get to the common goal and the common interest, and you succeeded at getting past all of it, then you've been in more vulnerable situations.
Interesting.
You've placed yourself in a more vulnerable spot, and you've been vulnerable in front of those people in some form. So now that bond of being like, oh man, you saw me at my worst or close to it, and we're still cool.
Right. No, I agree. Interesting. I mean, like you're saying, vulnerability. Would it be safe to say then, like, being vulnerable all the time would benefit you then? You would create more bonds, right? I guess, in theory.
Yeah.
Because the way I'm thinking about this now is, I mean, you see who I am more often when I'm uncomfortable or when I'm vulnerable in that sense, right? And I think with the sense of like 75 hard of what I was doing, I was able to reflect or show. Yeah, I mean, so like just in the sense of the 75 hard and everything, being more vulnerable, putting yourself in more tough times, right? To basically allow yourself to, be who you really are. I mean, it's just interesting to me because that's like kind of what my thought process is as of lately. How do I create more tough times for myself in order to show more of what I'm capable of, like who I am and stuff like that? I don't know.
Yeah. But vulnerable in the sense to, like you're saying that, but like 75 hard is kind of an individual thing, right?
Yeah. You're saying 75 hard is an individual thing, but would it be safe to say that, I mean, the military is almost an individual thing? It's all in your head, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we're accomplishing tasks together. There's certain things that are on an individual level. Like I didn't go to the same boot camp and then get out of the military and go to all the same schools as everybody else went to. So I had different experiences with different groups of people, but there wasn't like, I would say Sierra was probably the most individual school that I did. Kind of just had to rely on yourself, but there was half of it where you were the team, and I had a buddy for most of it, like, or half of it. I don't know. But 75 hard, you're supposed to have an accountability buddy, I guess, right?
No. Okay, I mean, your accountability buddy's yourself.
Oh.
So one of the craziest things is that, like, I mean, there's nobody that is expected to do anything, or it's all in your own. It's like you're the own accountability. If you think that you're not doing something, like, I mean, there was points in time where, like, in my first attempt at 75 hard, I literally had ketchup, and my whole thing was like, I'm not going to eat fructose corn syrup and like sugars and stuff. And I had ketchup one day, and I was like, I looked at the back of the bottle, and I was like, oh shit, like tons of ketchup or tons of sugar. Like,
yeah,
I was like,
high
whoa,
fructose corn syrup. Yeah,
just
first
tons.
ingredient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was blown away, and I was like, all right, I'm never going to eat ketchup again. And then I just continued on with my attempt, right? Because I was like, I didn't know. It's not really fair that I didn't know. And I continued on, right? Well, long story short, like by the end of like, that was my first attempt out of like 4, and I completed on the 4th one. But at the end of the 4th one, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I should have just like realistically, in the position that I'm at now, I should have just like started over right then and there, because the accountability in your head is like, hey, yo, dude, like you messed up, start over. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, that's how you're held accountable. But I guess, yeah, in the military, it's a little bit different. You're held accountable by other people. But I mean,
yeah, but you're also held accountable for yourself. So that was the thing when I was trying 75 hard. I'm an attempt and failure, and I made a bunch of excuses, but at the end of it, I just made excuses.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Sure.
But I was like, I've already done this.
Yeah.
Like I've already done a mental fortitude test. I don't want to do it again. But it definitely does teach you to hold yourself accountable. It's called being an adult, right? Because when you're under your parents' roof, they have to keep you accountable, and then when you're an adult, you're supposed to hold yourself accountable. But if your parents never taught you how to be accountable for yourself,
yeah,
then you got to learn it.
Well, that's
some other way.
That's a super interesting point. So I mean, like, is it even your parents' fault for not holding you accountable? I mean, obviously, it is their responsibility. But I mean, if they didn't know accountability, then
right.
How are they supposed to? Or if they weren't taught accountability,
right?
Even though they might know accountability at that time,
or their version of accountability.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a really, really cool thing, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons I think the military is very smart. A smart path, at least, is because I mean, you do learn accountability and stuff like that through it. You're able to have at least that thought to teach your kids like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
75 hard, the same aspect. I mean, if you're not learning accountability, then yeah, you can't teach it. Again, back with like what I was saying, abundance. If you don't have what you're trying to give, it's not even possible.
Yeah, and I think that accountability is a skill, so you can lose it. So maybe I just don't have the same mental fortitude I used to have. Yeah, right. Maybe that's why I didn't complete 75 hard. It's because I'm not gonna go through that much pain anymore. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, no, I would actually. There's a term for it. But yeah, it's a maintenance skill or something like that. I mean, yeah, something like that. I mean, but
isn't everything right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think what it comes down to is like kind of like practicing, or, you can have talent in anything, right? You can
Atrophy. That's the word I was looking for.
atrophy.
Everything is experiences atrophy. Every skill and everything that you know and do.
It degrades.
Yeah, there's no plateau.
Sure.
Like if I don't ride a bike for 10 years and then I hop on a bike again, I'm going to know how to ride it.
Yeah.
But I'm not probably going to be able to do the stuff I did 10 years ago.
Absolutely. Unless you built back up to it with hypertrophy.
And, yeah.
Hypertrophy is like the term for like
Nice.
Muscle growth or whatever. Yeah. The opposite of atrophy. Yeah, absolutely.
So I just believe that every skill is up or down, waves, just like everything else. There's no plateau.
I think there has to be a plateau, though, right? No, like
maybe for a day or a second or a minute. It just depends on what time frame I think you're talking about a plateau for.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I look at my dad, and I know he's not old. I mean, like he is older, right? He's gonna be, or he's 57 this year, just turned 57, and I think about that, and like he's like, oh, I can't do what I'm like, dude, like I know you could. I know for a fact you could. Like, you know what I mean? I just like not to call him out, but like, you know what I mean? Like if I was like, if
you were like, I'll give you $2 million if you can do XX.
Yeah. Guaranteed anything, whatever. Yeah. Hey, dad, run 3 miles a day and eat right. You know what I mean? Stick to a diet and I'll give you, $100,000 or whatever. Right.
I wonder what people's price tag would be on 75 hard.
Dude, that's really crazy.
Like if you told your dad complete 75 hard and I'll buy you another RV or a new RV or
what's interesting is like
the best drone on the market.
Is that even fair? You're doing it for the money though then? So you have a motivator instead of your motivation for yourself. And again, so then that's like, who's holding you accountable? Am I supposed to sit there and watch you and hold you accountable every day? That's not the point of the program. Right? Yeah, right. Interesting. But I mean, then again, like I do want everybody to do 75 hard, and I do want everybody to like have that mental fortitude. Because like, I mean, imagine if everybody had the mental fortitude to do that. I mean, how many problems like would be resolved in just like not being fucking lame, or I don't not lame, but you know what I mean? Like, dude, like just holding yourself accountable to just even getting to work or doing something. Like, I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, you haven't been this way your whole life.
Absolutely.
So do you remember how you felt when you didn't want to do things?
Do I remember how I felt?
Like high school.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you felt when you didn't want to do any homework?
Dude, I felt like shit in a way. Well, I mean, see, that's also interesting too, because I feel like that's a learning process through school. I mean, definitely interesting though too, because those are learned behaviors in themselves, right? Like I was learning to be lazy throughout all of school. I wasn't always lazy in school, right? I mean,
I want to say all, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like in 7th, 8th grade, I was still doing some homework and whatnot, and then eventually got more lazy. So, I mean, again, yeah, it goes back to your same talk about like how your skills go or how things go. I mean, I was learning and choosing to be more lazy as time went on. But, I mean, towards the end, like let's say your path, military versus my path, drinking, getting fucked up, and just like, you know what I mean? Towards the end, like my highs were high, sure, but like, I mean, at the end of it, I'm sitting there like, dude, what the fuck am I doing? Like, how am I here now? Like, why? I haven't done jack shit, dude. Like, honestly, I mean, like a lot of things were like, I say given to me, or like, yeah, I mean, given to me, or just like I had a lot of stuff that was just still in front of me, like a lot of opportunities still there. And like a big blessing for sure, but realistically, I hadn't done jack shit by the time I was like 25. I mean, 25, I was barely working at it, but like, if you have that,
you had a good time.
Sure.
You had a good memory or two.
Maybe not even memories. It's just like distant thoughts,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Got pictures.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I can reflect on like getting fucked up. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. But like that doesn't benefit me in any way now. And I wish like if I if I could go back and like change, dude, like the exponential growth that could happen, you know what I mean? In the sense of those years, let's say 7 years of my life, 20 to 27 now, dude, if I started what I'm doing now at 20, I would have already basically made it by now, you know, in theory, right? Putting in the work for 7 years, you're going to have something done. You're going to at least know what you're not doing anymore, right? Hey, all right, I started a podcast about fucking cats and it didn't work. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious.
You know what I mean? Yeah. No, but like now I learned, hey, drinking's not that fucking cool. Doing drugs is not that cool. Like, you know what I mean? Having friends is good if they're like bringing you down the right path. But I mean, though, even having the wrong friends is not good. Stuff like that is just interesting. I mean, I would go back and put myself in some sort of other path, I guess. But I mean, I guess hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, but maybe, right? Because what if you didn't do all of those things and did the thing at 20, and then you get to 25 and you were successful, and then you had lots of money, and you're like, oh man, I've always wondered what drinking was like, what marijuana was like.
Maybe.
You know, like, I want to try those things. Maybe not though, right? But you're saying in an alternate universe where you never had those curiosities, because most people try those things because they're curious on what effect they're going to feel. And so they do their experiment, and then some people experiment longer than other people experiment. And
would you say that it's all an experiment? I mean, there's never not an end to it, or? I
mean, you're right. At a certain point, right? Like people who drink alcohol and go to the bar like that, I feel like maybe it's an experiment, right? You could classify it each and every time as an experiment. Or you're just like, I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be great or it's going to be terrible, and I'm going to go ahead and proceed. Most people are thinking they're going to have a great night, though. I don't think anyone goes into like, I'm going to drink and have a terrible night tonight. Can't wait.
Dude, I don't know. Some nights you do that. I feel like that if you're drinking a bunch.
If you're depressed, I guess.
If alcohol's a big depressant.
I guess if you're, there's negative ways to use substances.
Yeah, and I think that is would be the problem, really. I mean, the negative. I mean, by continuing the substances, or by continuing like down the path of experimenting per se, because experimenting is one thing. Like, you know, whatever you do it in high school, or you know, whatever you 21 to 23 on the weekends and whatever. But like when you're experimenting every day, you know what I mean? How many possibilities are there? There's a shit ton, and you're gonna find them all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't be innocent in your approach forever.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I mean, there's a point that you're like, I know what I'm doing. I'm getting fucked up.
Yeah, this is it.
And that's all you think that you have. I mean, that's the problem. Is like you know nothing better, right? And that's what I think would be the. I mean, you asked me, well, would you have curiosity at 25? Yeah, sure. You have curiosity, but you know something better. You've already achieved other things. And that's like the thing I start thinking about, like when I have kids, and when I'm thinking about like how you can, even the kids that I have around me now, is like, how do I influence them to have these thoughts earlier, right? Like have like these aha moments faster. Like, you know what I mean?
Them.
Right. Yeah. You have to teach them. You have to have, you know, I don't know. I don't have a kid yet, but yeah.
Well, I mean, so it's interesting because when I first had a kid, I was like, I'm going to have this child be the best child ever. Yeah. And I was like going to create it from scratch. And I was just going to like, from the very beginning, put every single trait that I find valuable in this child. And it's going to go out into the world and be the greatest whatever.
Right.
Immediately was wrong, because found out that they're already a human and have certain likes and dislikes and preferences and non-preferences, even as an infant. And you're just immediately like, okay, now I got this pile of traits, and now I got to organize it all in a certain way so it's put together as much as possible. And you're like, but every kid's different. Every kid's got their strengths and their opportunities, and it's interesting to watch. So Melissa will ask just off the wall, crazy questions all the time, and it's cool because now I have to get to have those conversations. So it's having conversations, I guess, with your kids is the way that you get them to think this way sooner, and being a person approachable enough. A parent approachable enough for the child to want to
100%
have those conversations.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I think that's with everybody though, right? I mean, just even having conversations, you and I, being approachable, being open. I mean,
open to thinking differently.
Yeah.
Being okay with having a different thought at the end of the conversation than you had going into it. There's a lot of people that can't do that.
Is that a skill?
Being open-minded?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Dude,
it's learned.
How do you develop that skill?
Open-mindedness, yeah.
Fuck. I feel like I've been open-minded for like a grip of my life. You know what I mean? Like obviously I've been experimenting with drugs and just doing whatever, but like how do you develop that?
Right. From being closed-minded to open-minded. So I feel like that is definitely something learned, right? There's things that certain parents teach their children and where certain parents don't. There's conservative families and there's liberal families, and there's everything in between.
Right.
The very far extremes of these polar ideologies. I mean, like.
Well, I mean, you're saying that
some might be open-minded and some might be like, no, this is the way you think. And like, there's not open-minded liberals. Like very, very.
I was gonna say the opposite too. The conservative
and conservatives.
Side, like,
both.
Well, think about the values that you're trying to instill, and what, like you just said about like you're your own person, right? So I mean, you could see the opposite. Your parents are so close-minded that you're the opposite now. You're like, dude, I don't like, my parents are so uptight. I'm gonna fucking do whatever.
Right. A rebellion.
Yeah, and so that I don't know.
A rebellion against the ideology. Yeah, but I mean, so everyone's got their own experience, but you can have someone that just was taught their whole entire life, like by loving what they identified as loving parents who wanted the best for them, and they were saying like, we don't talk to people who have red skin. Those are not the same people we are. They're lesser than people than we are. They hurt people. They steal. They're untrustworthy. You can't do business with them. Like when I went to Israel, I was at a hotel pool, and there were some Palestinians in the pool, just like teenage kids, probably like 13 to 17 years old, and they were playing volleyball in the pool. And me and some friends jumped in there, and we were playing volleyball with them. When we got done, I went and I wanted to just talk. I was just talking to people because I was in a different country and they spoke English, luckily. So I was just like, hey, tell me about your experience in life. Just being a total tourist. And I talked to the lifeguard, and he was an Israeli, and he was probably like 17, 18, maybe 20 years old. Long blonde hair, looked like a hippie dude. Perfect lifeguard guy, and he had so much hate in his heart for these people, these Palestinians, and he's like, "Hey, you know they're Palestinians, right?" And I was like, "Nope, no idea, not a single clue." But now that you're saying something, they have a darker complexion.
Sure,
yeah. I now can identify them. If I asked them, then they said yes, I'd be like, that makes sense. Yeah. But I didn't think about that at the time. And he's like, yeah, we don't like them. You shouldn't hang out with them. And I'm like, wait. And I'm like, what, really? And he's like, yeah. And then starts talking all this mad crap on him. And I'm like, and I felt that could have been an isolated experience. And I was like, maybe I just met the racist.
Sure.
Then I went inside and I was talking to an older couple, and they were open to talking to me about their experiences in Israel because I started talking about how there was an alert app on their phone that alerts them when missiles are overhead.
Fuck. That's crazy.
It's an alert system that everyone's got on their smartphone, and you hear beep, 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 like find some shelter. There's missiles overhead.
Damn.
we
Wow.
are lucky enough
Holy
in
shit.
America to not have to have that app.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. That's
But it was
nuts.
real weird having that app and seeing that app around. I didn't have my phone, obviously, but I was talking to this older couple. They're probably in their 60s, 50s or 60s. And I was saying, so is there a thing between Israel? At the time, I knew there was. Obviously, I didn't ask them that way because at that time, we were gonna go into Jerusalem, but we couldn't because there was a Palestinian stabbing an Israeli person in the city.
Interesting.
Or vice versa. I can't remember exactly how it
Yeah.
was, but it was in the news. Then I was like, is there like some, like Palestinians and Israelis, I understand there's this whole Gaza Strip. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of wars. It's been a long thing. But it's like, is it taught? Like, do we teach this to everybody?
Right.
The answer I got was more along the lines of, like, we understand it's not right, but that's just the way it is.
Interesting.
And they couldn't see them as people. They were different. They were lesser than. They were Palestinians are the enemy. Always and forever, I guess, as of, when I was over there. But it was really interesting situation to be in because I was like, that feels closed-minded, right?
Super.
Like you wouldn't be able to see them differently, or maybe they could. Maybe something's going to happen, or maybe it's more deep-seated, and maybe we're so removed from the situation that we just don't understand, and maybe it's the right way to think. I have a hard time saying that out loud because I do think that way, but...
No, that's a good thought, though, I feel like, because, really, it's interesting that, I was talking to my grandpa about this, it's just how connected everybody is nowadays that we don't, it's easy to be canceled nowadays. There's so many other things that are like
competing for time.
No, and that's not the right. Okay, so we don't have a structure that okay, our generation. I would say I fall in line with your generation. You're only a couple years older, but the generation younger than me, maybe even my sister, maybe like just a few years younger than my sister, like 20-ish.
Well, Gen Z is 24, I think, right now, something like that.
Something like that. And I would argue even 24-year-olds could fall into more millennials, but probably not. Anyway, Gen Z, they're more connected, which allows you, like I say, connected, but like socially connected, or you feel like you want to be X, Y, and Z about, yourself. Your X, Y, and Z, you're like, oh, I resonate with this or resonate with that, but it doesn't allow you to see the negatives, or like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's an interesting topic that you're so connected that you can't have these conversations of like, well, what if this is right, or you know what I mean? I don't know. Like you're.
Have you ever seen The Middle Ground, the series, a YouTube series called Middle Ground?
No.
It's really cool. So they'll have like people from opposite perspectives just have a open discussion about their views. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's not about who wins the debate. It's just about people sharing their ideology. That's pretty cool.
I think that's the best part. And knowing that based off of your history, you're gonna have. There's no way. You could try to physically change those people's minds, or you could try to indoctrinate the next up and coming, youth or whatever. But those people's histories shape how they think, right? There's no, and it's just is what it is, right? You're still, like you said with your kids, they're still a person. They still have regular thoughts, there's just thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to have, whatever thoughts, I guess, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Shit. All right, cool. We'll wrap it up. I think it's been a pretty good conversation, and yeah. I enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you did have fun, whatnot. let's let me think. Do you have any final thoughts? Do you have any?
I don't know. Do we wrap up everything? Jeez, I feel like we jumped everywhere on that.
Sure.
We're talking about 75 hard for a bit, and
Well, okay. So let's say we wrap it up, and how do we I guess my final thought is how do we make a difference? Like how can you make a difference? I think it comes down. I talk about it a lot. Microisms versus macroisms. We're talking about the whole entire world, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay, so I keep talking about microism versus macroism. We're talking about the whole entire world, but to be honest, you can't change the whole entire world at once, and you can only change yourself. Your microism, you're very.
Unless you're Elon Musk.
Dude, I don't even think that he could change the entire world by himself. Like just by.
No, he's got a team.
Yeah, he's got a team. Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's still like 150 people or whatever, and they're going to do all the, you know what I mean? I don't know. And again, it started with him building himself up, right? It started with him by himself, and that's the basic principles. I mean, you got to work on yourself before you're going to work on everything else. So, I mean, how do you think you are going to make a difference?
So you're talking macro in myself or in the world?
Well, in both, I guess. I mean,
both.
starting with yourself, right?
So interesting. I'm gonna answer this long form and say that I recently started going to church, and I feel like I started doing that in the sense that there's always been at least in the church that I'm going to, a lesson that I learn that I really. It doesn't have to be about Jesus, but
Absolutely.
It's about development, self-development, and it's cool to see people there that are also wanting to develop themselves. That's why they're there, is to learn something or
Sure.
to feel something or to. I mean, some people feel like it's just their duty, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are there because they enjoy the experience. And so the series that just started today was on the Father, and they made it biblical and about church. They're saying that we're all supposed to be children of God, but what I was taking from it was what they classified, what Christianity classifies as a good father, and traits and qualities that they benefit, and that would benefit the children, and what that is supposed to look like. And it's a 4-part series, so I think there'll be 3 more these next Sundays coming up. But I have realized that I am maybe more passive as a father than I've been in the past. Very hands-on for the most part, I feel like, for most of my fathering career.
Yeah.
But with school, being a full-time student,
okay.
I have tried my best to give them at least an hour or 2 during dinner, and maybe a little bit after dinner, and doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, is an hour or 2 a day with my child out of 24 hours adequate enough time? That would be considered, I don't know, but what's a good father, right? That's all subjective.
Sure.
I'm like, I don't know if I feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like eventually, once I get done with this schooling, which will be next December, I'll be able to get back in there. And I think my difference is going to be with those kids. It's so cool to see what you can grow in these little heads. They, like I said, they're their own person, but there's certain, I told them they only have 4 rules. Rule 1, don't hurt yourself. Rule 2, don't hurt other people. Rule 3, respect property. And oh man, I can't. Dang it. See, we don't have to talk about it because we just do those 3.
Yeah.
I'm just respect yourself, respect others, and respect property.
Right.
If you can remember those 3 things, all other things fall in that category.
Right. Yeah.
I'm you only have 3 rules, just follow those 3 rules. But that alone, in just teaching the 6-year-old that pretty much recently this week, it's pretty cool because the other ones got it. The other ones know those rules, and they okay, we know that those are the 3 rules. There's a 4th one I learned from a psychologist, but if I ever remember it, I'll let you know.
Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say parenting. I'm going to try to make as big of a difference in those 4 little regrets as possible.
That's I feel like the most you can do. I mean, right? I mean, just interestingly enough, before we wrap it up, I mean, I think that, I mean, you gotta, I mean, say an hour a day is what you can give. I think that's what you can give, right? I mean, again, you have to focus on yourself before, you can focus. I mean, they're their own people, and you have to care about their feelings, but I mean, you have to care about like yourself first, right? You're still a very important human being in the sense of, if you're gone or if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then those kids aren't gonna
Right.
ever learn, or you know what I mean? Like that's how it comes down to. So yourself first, right? And then the other people. So I think that's how you put it, right? You respect yourself, and then you respect other people. I mean, just
In that order, yeah.
I mean, you got to respect yourself. The most you can do is through yourself. You cannot, you know what I mean? Those kids are going to do whatever they want. In theory,
Yeah.
They're going to do whatever they want.
Right.
They don't know that they can do whatever they want maybe yet, but yeah, yourself and then others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Very
Awesome.
cool. Yeah, awesome. So, you guys, again, oh shit. Thank you so much. This just fell off.
That's amazing.
Anyway,
That's
thanks so much again for coming in.
Yeah.
We've had a great conversation. If you guys could go share the show, hit the like button, comment, subscribe. There's a lot more talks coming. This has been one of many, and I look forward to the other ones to come. So, thanks again for coming in, and seeing you in the next one.
Peace.